get started today in the book of Luke, chapter 13. Repent or perish. Now, there were some present at that time who told Jesus about Galileans whose blood Pilate had mixed with their sacrifices. Jesus answered, "Do you think that these Galileans were worse sinners than all the other Galileans because they suffered this way? I tell you, no. But unless you repent, you too will all perish. Or those 18 who died when the tower in Siloam fell on them, do you think they were more guilty than all the others living in Jerusalem? I tell you, no. But unless you repent, you too will all perish." Then he told this parable. A man had a fig tree planted in his vineyard, and he went to look for fruit on it, but did not find any. So he said to the man who took care of the vineyard, "For 3 years now I have been coming to look for fruit on this fig tree, and haven't found any. Cut it down. Why should it use up the soil?" "Sir," the man replied, "leave it alone for 1 more year, and I'll dig around it and fertilize it. If it bears fruit next year, fine. If not, then cut it down." Wow. There is a lot here. Listen to what Jesus is talking about, because he's talking about the kingdom and he's talking about things that we kind of misjudge, misdetermine, and misunderstand about what Jesus, or what goes on through life, what things that we come across in life, things that we take on in life. A lot of things we characterize in life because we misjudge them. We think of those in a certain way, but they're not. So listen to what Jesus is telling them. So now there were some present at that time who told Jesus about Galileans whose blood Pilate had mixed with their sacrifices. Jesus answered, "Do you think that these Galileans were worse sinners than all the other Galileans because they suffered this way? I tell you, no. But unless you repent, you too will all perish." So this is another portion where we get to look at how things are in perspective. One of the things that I've talked about as well, thinking about what I just mentioned and then what Jesus is talking about, things that has been brought up in previous Bible studies, is when we look at things when it comes to wickedness, sin, things that are bad in nature, we tend to want to rate them just like everything else. People, things, we rate them between what's really bad, what's somewhat bad, what's okay, what's good, what's really good, what's very good, and so on and so forth. Whereas sin is just, it's just sin. Whether you did a lie or you committed a murder, it's sin. It's one thing. All sin equals the same. And that's, whenever I read this portion, this is telling the people, he's trying to tell them that, whenever I read this, he's trying to let them know that there's not levels to this. Jesus had to die for all sin to be forgiven, all of it. Not just, some lies or just this portion of sin, the whole thing, because the Lord is holy. Therefore, sin cannot be, it has to be eliminated. It cannot be around the Lord. For us to live in eternity with him, we have to be sin-free. The one way to do so is by fulfilling the law. Because we as man cannot complete the law, God did it himself through his son, Jesus. Jesus was the completion. It was the said and done. So he is the answer. Jesus is the answer and the only way. There's a lot here, though. Before we go on, what kind of thoughts or feelings come to your mind when we read over this? How does it make you feel, and what does it make you think?